I was not expecting this to be on my 2024 bingo card, but let's talk about my reading wrap up for the month of January. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessie, and today I'm here to do a reading wrap up for the month of January. If you know me, this is like one of the videos that I struggle to actually produce for you guys, but that is something I do want to change for the year of 2024 because I feel like I love watching people's wrap-ups. I know you guys probably enjoy reading wrap-ups. So let's talk about all the books that I did read in the month of January. Before we actually get to the books, let's talk about how I'm tracking these. So this is my 2024 planner agenda. This is what's been working for me. This is just an Erin Condren A5 2024 calendar, and not gonna like share too much, but this is where I'm writing all of my information for the month. And then in the back of the planner, I do have a yearly tracker. But I will say that the stuff that I'm tracking monthly is very different from what I'm tracking yearly. So in my January wrap up, I have the title, the author, when I completed it, my star rating system. I also have a different color system, which I'll get to in a little bit. And then I also, off to the side at the last minute, decided to put how I'm getting the audiobook. As for the color coding system, I have picked up a new hobby, and that is crocheting. So I am actually crocheting a star rating blanket for 2024. So to kind of give you guys like a color guide, and also the ends are not complete. White is just a border, so this is just the end of the blanket, and then for each month I will put a white one to separate the months. And as for the actual colors for the books, I went with the colors that I typically coordinate with my book club, which is Sleep When I'm Dead. So if you didn't know, I have an online book club called Sleep When I'm Dead, where we read new release thrillers, and I have a few co-hosts every month. So yeah, these are generally the colors I associate with my book club. I do not have the khaki color, and that's because khaki represents 1 star for me. So as you can tell, I have no 1-star books for the month of January, which is great. As for the other colors, this like charcoal gray color represents 2 stars. And then for this like teal, or for this like super dark teal color, that is 3 stars. The blue represents 4 stars, and the pink represents 5 stars. So here is a visual of my reading month. And as I go through all the books that I've read for the month of January, I'll have like some kind of like color coordinating like graphic off to the side so that we can kind of visually see where each book went. So I have read 14 books, and I'm going to go in chronological order. So let's go into the book that I was reading at the last day of December going into January. So the first book I picked up was Hemlock by Kirsten Modulin. I have always been a big fan of Kirsten Modulin, and I think this one was very different than what I'm normally used to. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It was definitely a strong 4-star book for me at the beginning, but then the end kind of like went a little off the rails, and so for that I did dock a star. If you're thinking this one is a suspense thriller, absolutely not. It is mostly like 80% of romance, and if you like love triangles, I feel like this one would be a good choice for you. But this one, like I said, 80% romance and like 20% like suspense, I would say. This one is about a woman who buys a house back in her hometown, and she basically goes back there to try to renovate this house, and she kind of like falls back into the lives of 2 men that she knew before she left town, and she kind of had like a love triangle, and there may still be a love triangle. Also, the house might be haunted. So moving on. The next book that I want to talk about is The Engagement Party by Darby Kane. This is the first book I've ever read by Darby Kane. I gave this one 2 stars. I picked this one up because my friend Gwen, who has a podcast, we all know Gwen, the podcast is called Talk Bookish to Me. I highly recommend. I'll leave the link down below. But she actually did a book discussion on her podcast about this book, so I definitely wanted to pick up a copy. For one, I was definitely interested in this copy, but also I wanted to read the book, but also participate while listening to the actual podcast episode. So if you like And Then There Were None retellings, this one is definitely up your alley. I typically don't like And Then There Were None retellings because I just don't really like that whole like clue mystery. I don't know what it is. Like, it sounds good, but I typically for some reason just don't gravitate towards that. So this one is about college friends reuniting over an engagement party on this island. There might be a killer on the island. Definitely check it out, and definitely check out the podcast episode because I think Gwen and Erica hosted an excellent job. The next one that I want to talk about was actually a 3-star book for me, and that is Murder in the Family by Kara Hunter. And this one definitely got to me because of TikTok. They said if you like true crime or you like trying to solve true crime, cold cases type of things, this is the book for you because you are actually solving the murder with the story. No, this is not based on true events, but it was just kind of saying like if you like that sort of stuff, you would love this. And this one totally blows your mind. It's like nothing you've read before. I wasn't really wowed by that. I also kind of guessed the killer pretty early on in the book. So, but this one's very unique. If you are looking for something where you actually want an interactive experience, I definitely recommend this one. I first started off listening to this one on audio, but then I eventually just like, let me just physically read this one because it's like kind of like a, how do you put this? Like it's got like mixed media in it. It's got like emails and like documents and things like that. It almost reads like a screenplay. So it's got like pictures and like you've got all these different characters, which I felt like was another reason why I could not like look at this. So I feel like for the audio, it literally reads every single word on the page, which is great. That's what the audiobook is supposed to be for. But there's some stuff I'm like, okay, I don't really need all this information. So, and like I said, I guess the killer pretty early on and I was not really blown away, but I feel like this was kind of a cool, like interactive experience. So if you're interested, I'd definitely pick up this copy, but it was a 3-star for me. All right, moving on. I'm super excited because this is my first 5-star read of 2024 and it is One of Our Own by Lucinda Berry. I was very thankful to have received a advanced listener's copy of this one through Libra FM, so thank you to them. But I'm super excited because this one is so good. Like it's a short story, so it does not take very long. So, and I'm very picky with short stories because I always feel like I always wanted just a little bit more, but I feel like this one definitely wrapped up in a very nice way. Was the very ending like shocking? Absolutely not. But this audiobook was so good. This one follows a woman who volunteers at a suicide hotline and she gets a call from this teenage girl who is basically claiming that she is going to unalive herself because there are some videos of her from her high school that are going viral, and you know, she's trying to like, you know, calm her down. And so yeah, she kind of forms this like back and forth like relationship with this girl, not romantically, but just like trying to like help her in a sense. Like she just feels very gravitated towards this young girl, but also she may later find out that her son might have something to do with it, or the people that he surrounds himself may have something to do with it. So it's really, really good. The audio is impeccable. Let me just tell you, it has sound effects like you're actually listening to an actual phone conversation. So if you're looking for a good audiobook, I highly recommend this one. All right, you may get some laughs and giggles out of this, but I did read And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. So, and I am giving this one 3 stars. This is probably my favorite And Then There Were None type story. And it's because it's the actual And Then There Were None story. Ironic, I know. But I actually read this one for Gwen's Patreon. I am a night owl. I highly recommend you join us. It's so much fun. We did like this team challenge where we basically put ourselves into the story. I don't want to give out too much details because I feel like this is something that Gwen put a lot of time and effort into. So if you're interested in joining other challenges and events like this, I highly recommend you check out her Patreon because it is such a blast. So I did read the classic And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, giving this one 3 stars just because I feel like this, out of all the books that have that like concept, this one just does it the best, and it's because it's by the Queen of Mystery, clearly written on this one. I'm also really excited to share this one in a wrap up because now I can finally return this to the library. They're probably like, are you gonna return this? Next, let's talk about Sleep When I'm Dead. So for the month of January, me and my co-host Ashley and Lexi, we all read Good Girls Don't Die by Christina Henry. And this one was very interesting to discuss. Like, we all had kind of the same opinions but different ratings as well. I will say my rating was somewhere in the middle, but I'm not going to tell you who the others are, so y'all definitely have to go check out the co-host and the book discussion, which I will also leave down below. But this was our book club discussion. Like I said, this is about 3 women's stories and how they all connect, and it's very interesting. It has a lot of like social commentary on like women and also books and how men suck. So I ended up giving this one 2 stars. I can understand why people like this one, but this was just not my cup of tea personally. But I think if you and I have different reading tastes, or if you're interested to see what this book is about, definitely give this a shot. The next book I am so excited to talk about because it is my next 5-star read. It is The Overnight Guest by Heather Guenkoff. I've been seeing this book around for so long, and I've always been interested in this one, but I've been told by a few people like, oh, it's not that good. Oh, it's very average. So I've always been like scared. Not scared, but like I've always just been turned off to pick up this book. But you know what? Last year, what was my motto? Say it with me. Form your own opinion. So that's what I did. I ended up picking up this copy. This was actually my Christmas book to myself, if that makes sense. So I ended up picking this up and I loved this book so much. So the synopsis on the back does not cover the story at all. The back of it says like this woman who's a writer rents out this like cabin so she can finish her story, and like a big winter blizzard is coming, and then she finds this small child outside, and that's where things get crazy. But there's also other stories like where this cabin had a huge murder like years ago that was unsolved, and then there's a third perspective, which is even creepier, of a woman and her child. Like, yeah, I don't know. It was so good. I highly recommend. It's definitely a great winter pick. I highly recommend. And I'm really excited to pick up her newest copy, which comes out, I believe, in March or April. So you best believe I'll be picking that up. All right, the next book that I picked up is actually one that Justin picked for me. So if you saw my January TBR video, Justin actually picked 12 books off my TBR at random, and I wrapped them up and he labeled them. But then in my TBR video, I actually got to unwrap that book, and it was The Girl I Was by Jennifer Rose. This is more of a contemporary like chick lit type book, and I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I don't know. I'm like, I love contemporary romances, but like as far as just like contemporary like women's fiction, not really my thing. This one was just okay for what it was. I felt like I was able to breeze through this one because I had the audiobook. This one is about a woman who gets a chance to basically change her life by going in the past and finding her college self. So it's a lot about like self-discovery and like things like that. So this one was just okay. It's not my favorite by her, but I think if you are looking for something like this, kind of like a 13 going on 30 type of vibe, this would be perfect for you. The next book I picked up was a romance because I think I was just really wanting a romance out of the previous book. So I ended up picking up End of Story by Kylie Scott. If you saw my reading vlog where I went and visited Gwen, I think back in November, we went to this bookstore that had just opened called Novel Grounds. It's a complete romance indie bookstore. This was the blind date with the book that I purchased there, and I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I think if you really liked The 7-Year Slip, which is one of my favorites from last year, I think you would enjoy this one. However, I just wasn't really on board with the romance between the 2 characters, and it has like that time travel element that's never explained. So this one is not as like time travel-y as the 7-Year Slip. This one is about a woman who buys a home. She hires a contractor. The contractor is her ex-boyfriend's best friend, and it's very awkward between them. And when he starts working, he ends up like finding something in the wall, and it's a divorce certificate between him and the main character. It's a divorce certificate of them from 10 years in the future. And it's very weird. It's very awkward. So I was on board with that. I think it was really, really cute story, but unfortunately it just wasn't as good as like the other romances. I don't know. I felt like it was a 3.5, but like I just could not give it a 4-star. I don't do half-star ratings, so it's getting a 3. The next book I picked up was The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This one was definitely making its rounds. Like my friend Gwen definitely heavily influenced me. I also feel like my friend Gabby and Hannah also was reading this one, and I really enjoyed this one. And it's a YA like mystery, kind of like Criminal Minds, and that's what was pitched to me, and that's what I'm pitching to you. I felt like this was really great. This is book 1 of 4, so I do plan on picking up the next book. I think it's called Killer Instincts, so very excited to read this one. I felt like the audiobook was great. This one involves like kind of like older teenagers, like younger adults who kind of have like, I don't want to say special abilities because that's not like, I feel like that will throw you off, but they kind of get like recruited as like a team to help solve cases, and I just absolutely loved it. I felt like this was a good book, and there was a little bit of a romance, but not too much, so I definitely enjoyed this one and can't wait to pick up book 2. I can't remember if I said the rating or not, but I gave this one 4 stars, and I was so excited for a 4-star, not because I did not want this book to be a 5-star, but I was excited to add the color blue to my blanket, so yay. The next book that I read was We Spread by Ian Reid. This one's been on my TBR for a while. I was really, really expecting this to like really blow me away. Unfortunately, I felt like this was just kind of a 3-star. It felt like more like a fever dream in a way, and I thought this would like hit me a little harder just because this does have to do with like elderly people and memory loss, dementia, basically the last chapter of your life. And I have had grandparents who had dementia and Alzheimer's, so I thought this would hit me a little bit harder, but maybe I just did not have those feels. I know my friend Lena loved this one and gave it 5 stars. I think it was her favorite book of last year. So if this is something that you are excited about, and or if you have like personal connections to it, I definitely would recommend picking it up when you're ready and maybe have some tissues. But I don't know, it just didn't affect me like I thought it would. And it's a super short book. Like, it's smaller than a normal traditional paperback, and the font is ginormous. Lots of empty space. I felt like this was a quick read. The next one was actually a NetGalley arc, but I never got to it before it got published, but it is the Ayres by Rachel Hawkins. I have always been on the lookout for Rachel Hawkins, and this one I am so pleased to announce I gave it 4 stars. Now, this would not be my favorite of hers, but I do feel like it is very different, and I love that it's kind of set in the Appalachian Mountains and on the East Coast in like North Carolina, because that's not that far from me. And this was just like very interesting. I don't feel like there was a huge mystery to solve or anything like that, but this one gave me like Evelyn Hugo vibes, but like way darker. Basically, it's about this woman who was very rich. She owned this mansion, and she has all these like crazy family members, and our main character, well, it kind of, there's like 3 different points of views. You have the main character and his wife, so you get both of their perspectives, but then you also get perspectives of the heiress, basically. I forgot names, I'm so sorry, but she has passed away. There are things that need to be done, and so this husband and wife decide to up and move their lives over to North Carolina to kind of maybe, because the house was left in this guy's name. He was also adopted, so all the blood relatives kind of have some beef with that. It's so good. I highly recommend you pick it up. The next book I picked up was actually one that Lena gave me for Christmas, so thank you so much, Lena. This was The Long Game by Elena Ayres, and I've been wanting to read a book by this author. I do have one more on my TBR. It is The American Roommate Experiment, so I definitely want to get to that sometime this year. But this was actually my little book Fab 5 gift exchange, and I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It was more of a 3.5, but I just could not give it that 4 stars. I do want to preference that Lena had not read this book, so this wasn't like a recommendation for her. This is just something that she thought I personally would like, and I definitely liked the romance, but there was just something off about it to where I could not give it a full 4 stars, so I downgraded it to a 3. And I think this is just because I'm not used to like sports romances, but like I'm not opposed to reading more, you know what I mean? I felt like this was kind of comical, like it definitely had that rom-com-y type vibe, but also like grumpy sunshine, and it was so good. But like if you like soccer, I definitely think you should pick this one up. But I ended up giving it 3. Then I picked up an Audible original. Actually, I bought it because I couldn't use a credit. Well, actually I could use a credit, but if I bought it, it was $1 and some change. So I ended up just buying it on Audible. But this is Evidence of the Affair by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Super short read. It's so good. It's under like an hour long, so you could definitely get that knocked out pretty quickly. And I ended up giving that one 4 stars. The reason why I gave it 4 stars, like I mentioned earlier with the other short story, typically short stories I want just something a little bit more but can never ever receive, and I feel like this one just needed like one more chapter for it to be like a full 5 stars. I know this one is a crowd favorite because I've been told so many times to pick this one up. I finally did. I really enjoyed it. This one is about 2 characters where basically they know that their spouses are cheating on them with the other person's spouse, and they're kind of writing letters, kind of coping, but also it's a little bit of a romance between them two, and it's so good. And it mentions Daisy Jones and the Six like very subtly, and I just absolutely loved it. So if you need a short story, I highly recommend that you pick this one up. All right, that is all of the books that I read for the month of January. Aren't you guys proud? I actually have a January reading wrap up for you. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know if you want to see more in the future. I mean, I plan to do more in the future, but let me know if this is a video that you like. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, hit subscribe, because it really does help support my channel, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Hello, Ramona. I can't shake the simplest feeling beyond